The first light of the morning was drifting across the walls of my bedroom, but the darkness inside me refused to fade. Waking up on my 34th birthday wasn't something I had imagined like this. The man who should have been beside me, my husband Daniel, wasn't in bed. There was no note left, no message on my phone with his voice. The silence screamed through the room. A week ago, he had told me he needed to go to Munich for work. "I'll call you first thing in the morning on your birthday, Nora," he had said. He kissed my forehead, dragged his suitcase, and left through the door. What I felt then was a mixture of pride and longing. After 10 years, Daniel was finally taking his company to the international market with a big project. This was an important step for him, and I should have been proud. But this morning, there was no trace of pride in me. In the kitchen, the kids were getting breakfast ready in the morning rush. 8-year-old Lucas had overcooked the eggs, but his eyes were shining. 6-year-old Emma had left the kitchen counter covered in flour. "Surprise!" they shouted, holding out a plate of messy pancakes. I tried to smile, really tried. But the emptiness inside me seeped through the smile. "Mom, when will Dad call?" Emma asked. My answer got stuck in my throat. "His meeting ran late, sweetie," I said. "He'll call soon, I'm sure." After dropping the kids off at school and returning home, the silence in the house felt even heavier. My eyes caught the frames in the hallway. Our wedding photo, Lucas's first birthday, a school picture of Emma with missing baby teeth. They all used to mean something. Now, they seemed like they belonged to another life. At 11 o'clock, I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up the phone and called Daniel. It rang for a long time before he finally picked up. "I hope I didn't wake you up," I said. My words were soft, but inside, I was screaming. "Oh, Nora," he said, his voice strangely cheerful. I could hear laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses in the background. "Sorry, I didn't realize how late it was. It's been a busy day." Then, a woman's voice was heard. It was close, very close. "Daniel, who's that?" she asked. I recognized the voice, someone who had known me since childhood. My heart clenched. Is that Bianca?" I asked. My voice sounded strange to me. There was a silence. Then Daniel started laughing, that annoying laugh. "Yeah, we ran into each other here. Isn't that funny?" Bianca, my own sister, the woman I grew up with at the same school, shared secrets with, and was my maid of honor at my wedding. She laughed in the background. "Surprise, Nora." "Happy birthday." My hand shook. The sounds coming from the phone seemed to fade away. The whole house grew silent. Cold sweat dripped down my face. "How long?" I just asked. Bianca's voice was colder this time. "It's been over a year. Your marriage is over. He's leaving you. He's rising, and your time's up." The phone slipped from my hand and crashed onto the kitchen tiles. It didn't break, but I did. I sat down on a chair, trying to breathe deeply. My stomach turned, and the world seemed to spin around me. 10 years crumbled before my eyes, turning to dust. But I didn't cry. No. This wasn't the time to cry. That day, I made a birthday cake for the kids, on my own birthday. I wanted them to be happy because I had to stay strong in their eyes. After I tucked them into bed, I pulled out an old box. My college diploma, photos with my university friends, teaching dreams, my own success certificates, the life of Nora Steinberg before she was Nora Hansen. That night, I made a decision. I was going to divorce the man who did this to me. But first, I wasn't going to play the game by their rules. I was going to write my own rules. I didn't wake up with the first light of the morning because I hadn't slept at all. I spent that night searching for traces of a woman I had forgotten, armed with old documents, photos, and memories from my past life. That woman, Nora Steinberg, was once a teacher who believed she could change the world and wanted to inspire hope in children. Then Daniel came into my life, and slowly I hid my own dreams behind his. Now, that man is in Italy, sipping wine with my sister at a luxury hotel, and I'm sitting in the kitchen chair, questioning my past. But that morning was different. My under-eye bags were swollen, but there was a strange sense of determination inside me. A sentence echoed in my head. "If you're going to fight, first, you need to know what you're fighting." I walked toward the hidden home office. Daniel's office had always been off-limits. "The work files are all over the place. They'll suffocate you," he used to say. Now I realized that it wasn't the disorganized files, but his mysterious nature that suffocated me. I quietly opened the door. Everything inside was carefully arranged. There were no family photos on the wall, only a series of certificates, success awards, and a photo of Daniel shaking hands with the mayor of Munich. My eyes landed on the folders. The labels read Project A, Client, H. Berger, Proposal, Apex, and so on. I examined them one by one, but one file particularly caught my attention. Project Lyra, Vorschlag zur Stadtentwicklung. The drafts, descriptions, and presentation materials in the file were filled with sustainable architectural solutions that Daniel had always praised. But this wasn't his style. He always argued that green projects don't bring in profit. Yet, in this file, there were details about community integration spaces, open areas for local artists, natural light architecture, and recyclable building materials. All of this reminded me more of someone else than Daniel. On the last page, there was a name, Leon Callahan. My eyes widened. Leon, my high school love. The one who taught me how to drive, who I went to prom with, the one I corresponded with for years before life got in the way. The last time I saw him was at the train station during my senior year of college. That day, we promised each other, if our paths cross again someday, we'll talk about everything left unsaid. The contact form in the file had the Callahan Developments logo on it. The company was based in Berlin. There was a mobile number underneath, directly to Leon's name. My heart began to race. My hands might be shaking, Nora, but this time, you're calling. I picked up the phone, hesitated for a few seconds, and then pressed the keys. As chaos raged inside me, a familiar voice answered. Callahan. Leon, it's Nora Steinberg, I said. Well, now it's Hansen. There was a brief silence. Then, in his voice, I heard a familiar warmth mixed with a hint of surprise. Nora? Wow, I didn't expect to hear from you. How are you? It's been years. Almost 10, I said. But this time, it's not about nostalgia. I need to ask you something. Are you working with someone named Daniel Hansen? Leon's voice suddenly turned serious. Yes? We had a project discussion with his firm. But Nora, what's your connection to this? Because that man is my husband. And right now, he's not in Munich. He's at Lake Como, and my sister is with him. A deep silence followed. Then, the sentence that felt like a knife slicing through the knot inside me came. The ideas presented in this file are identical to our past projects. The same terminology, the same drawings. Some of the sentences are even word for word. I swallowed hard. Did he present these as your ideas? Unfortunately, yes. But now, I know they weren't. After a brief silence, Leon continued. I'll be in Berlin tomorrow. Would you like to come? Let's talk about this face to face. And please, bring your kids. I'd like to meet them too. When I hung up the phone, my hands no longer trembled. For the first time, this didn't feel like a divorce. It felt like a battle plan. This was a fight to take back the life that belonged to me, not to Daniel. That evening, I told the kids about our European adventure. We're going to Berlin, I said. For your dad's work. But it's also going to be a new beginning for us. Lucas shouted excitedly. Are we flying? Really? Emma squeezed her toy in bed and asked, Is it a different world, Mom? Yes, sweetheart, I said. And this time, I'll be the one writing the rules of that world. When we landed in Berlin, the sky was gray, but the fog inside me started to lift. As we got off the plane, Lucas looked out the window and said, Mom! The buildings here look more serious. I smiled. Yes, everything here was going to be more serious. Because now, every move I made was not just about reclaiming the past, but also the future. It didn't take long for us to settle into the hotel. Leon had arranged a stylish yet simple hotel for us in Kreuzberg, close to the city center but away from the crowds. They had booked an adjacent room for the kids. This was the furthest we had ever been, but they were excited. As for me, I had never felt so organized and calm in my life. I finally knew how I felt. Control. I was the one holding the strings now. The next morning, as we headed to the cafe to meet Leon, the kids walked ahead with little notebooks and crayons in their hands. I had told them that I had a little work in Berlin, but we would go to the zoo afterward. It was still too early to tell them the truth. The man sitting in the corner of the cafe was older but familiar, Leon Callahan. Behind his glasses, I could still see that familiar look. He stood up and hugged me. There was no rush in his embrace, just a patience that seemed to wipe the dust of the past away. "It feels strange, but right to see you here," he said. "I wish it were under better circumstances," I replied. We sat down at the table. I pulled out the files in my hands, the notes I had gathered from Daniel's office, downloaded PDFs, printed project drawings. Leon went through each of them one by one. As his face grew more serious, the silence inside me began to speak. "This is outright intellectual property theft," he finally said. And it's not just a simple analogy. He's used the same terminology, the same graphics. Some of the files still have our logo in the corner. I don't think he realized that. I nodded. Daniel was always ambitious. But it's not just ambition anymore. This is the desperation of a man who's been lying to me and everyone else to cover up his own failure. Leon glanced at the kids. They were looking at postcards in the window. "And what about you? What do you want, Nora? What do you want to gain from this process?" My answer was clear. Safety. A future for my children. And for the effort I've made over the years. My motherhood, my role as a housewife, standing behind him. To finally be recognized. Justice. Leon lowered his head. "Then I'll help you. Not just legally, but strategically. We won't be giving this project to Daniel, but more importantly, we'll stop him from using these thefts to advance in the industry." At that moment, my phone rang. It was Daniel. He hadn't messaged me in 3 days, but now I could feel it. He was in panic. I didn't pick up. Leon leaned forward on the table. "We have a central meeting in Monaco next week. All the investors in Europe will be there. Daniel was supposed to be the one attending. But instead, we're inviting someone else. The truth about who's really building this project will be revealed." I raised my eyebrows. "So, me?" Leon shook his head. "This presentation is yours, both for your life and for this idea. You'll be the one to present it. He'll just have to watch." At that moment, I felt the old teacher inside me, Nora Steinberg, gently touch my shoulder. "It's your turn at the board, Nora," she seemed to say. And this time, I would be the one teaching. On our way back to the hotel, the kids were telling me all about why Berlin was serious but cute. I was planning in my mind. The next day, bank, lawyer, paperwork. I would take every step in a way that would secure my own safety. Daniel called again. I didn't pick up. That night, on the hotel balcony, under the Berlin lights, I wrote in my notebook, "Check joint accounts. Secure passports and birth certificates. Start divorce process with the lawyer. Begin preparations for Monaco." Then I closed the notebook. This time, I wasn't just making plans. I was drawing a roadmap for myself. My sister Bianca thought she had sidelined me. So did Daniel. But now, the game was changing. The players would remain the same. But this time, I would write the rules. When the plane landed at Nice airport, the sun was rising right over the mountains. As the light painted the Mediterranean coastline in gold, it felt like the gloomy years inside Nora were slowly fading away. The children had spent the flight trying to understand Europe, jotting down notes in their notebooks. "This is like another world, isn't it, Mom?" Lucas asked. Nora's eyes filled with tears when she saw how magical this new beginning looked through their eyes. It didn't take more than an hour to reach Monaco. Leon had arranged a little surprise for the kids. The hotel's kids club. They would have fun there all day, while Nora would prepare for her own battlefield. The hotel was modest, but elegant, with balconies overlooking the Monaco harbor. Nora stood on the balcony for a while. She took a deep breath. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she no longer recognized the woman staring back. She had cut her hair. The long, wavy hair Daniel had insisted on for years was now replaced with a strong bob cut. Her clothes were now chosen by her own preference. simple yet elegant, the kind of outfits she could feel truly herself in. Leon arrived with his morning coffee. "Are you ready?" he asked. Nora nodded. "I'm ready. I'm no longer playing by his rules. I'm playing my own game now." The conference room was located in one of the modern office towers in the city center. Leon's company occupied 2 floors here. The presentation room was surrounded by large windows with views of the Mediterranean. Leon's lawyers, architects, and strategic partners were all present, positioned inside. They all knew what was happening. Today wasn't just a project presentation. It was going to be the stage where the masks would finally fall. At exactly 2 p.m., Daniel arrived. He was wearing an expensive suit, but his expression was anxious. As he entered the room, his eyes searched for Leon. But at that moment, Nora was waiting, hidden behind a column in the corner of the room, out of his sight. "Daniel Hansen," Leon said calmly. "Please, take a seat." Daniel realized something was wrong, but he put a small smile on his face. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to reconsider this meeting. I'm sure we can come to a good conclusion." Leon placed a file on the table. "This file compares the project draft you proposed with our previous projects. Everything is documented. From the drawing similarities to the sentence structure, every detail is recorded." The color drained from Daniel's face. This might be a misunderstanding. I might have just been inspired by it." At that moment, Nora stepped out from behind the column and stood directly in front of Daniel. Silently, but firmly. Daniel's mouth hung open. "Nora?" he whispered. "What are you doing here?" Nora walked closer to him. There was neither anger nor fragility in her voice. Only clarity. "I'm here because you didn't write this project. You chose to steal it. And I won't quietly watch things being stolen anymore." Daniel tried to regain his composure. This is an attack. Are you trying to destroy me because I want a divorce?" "No, Daniel," Nora said calmly. "Getting a divorce may have been your decision, but these consequences are the natural result of your actions. This isn't punishment, it's a result." Leon stood up. "We're canceling the project. Our business relationship ends here. We also reserve the right to file a lawsuit for intellectual property theft." Daniel's hands trembled, his lips quivered, but no words came out. His face turned red as Nora pulled out her phone from her bag. "I think we should immortalize this moment, don't you?" Leon stepped beside her. One of his assistants took a photo with Monaco's harbor in the background. Nora stood tall. Leon smiled. Daniel wasn't in the photo, because in that moment, he was cast out from a world that no longer belonged to him. She selected the photo and sent it to Daniel. She wrote only one note underneath. "The kids are here too. Don't worry, they're fine. So am I." That evening, as Nora walked through the Oceanographic Museum with the children, her phone kept buzzing. It was Daniel calling. Then came messages from Bianca. "What are you doing? What does this mean? Can you call me now? Have you lost your mind?" As Leon walked beside her, he whispered, "Are you going to respond?" Nora turned her attention to little Emma, who was excitedly talking about tropical fish. She smiled. "No. For now, silence is my clearest answer." As the sun set, Leon drove them back to the hotel along the coastal road. As they drove along the winding coastline, Nora felt a deep sense of peace inside her. This was a victory, yes, but it was more than just revenge. It was the moment she took back her own identity. And the best part? This was just the beginning. The return from Monaco was quiet. Neither the children nor Nora spoke, but a significant change had taken place within them. Nora's eyes may have remained the same, but her gaze now belonged to another woman. She was no longer walking with disappointment. She was walking with the future she had taken control of. As soon as they landed in Virginia, Leon was there to meet them at the airport. As always, he was simple and kind. While the children slept in the backseat of the car, he turned to Nora and said, "From here on, it's your court. But you're not walking alone." When they got home, the lights in the house were on. Daniel was there. From the window, Nora could see him pacing angrily in the living room. She told the children, "Stay in the car," and took a deep breath as she opened the door. She no longer felt fear when facing him. "Did you kidnap the children abroad?" Daniel exploded. "You'll pay for this, Nora. I called my lawyer. This is international child abduction." Keeping her composure, Nora pulled out her phone. The screen was on a message Daniel had sent months ago. "If you want to go on a trip with the kids this year, just let me know. It doesn't matter. Relax a little." Nora held the screen out to him. "Here's the proof of that. Permission." "My lawyer, Patricia, confirmed this is sufficient." Daniel's face drained of color. I never thought you would go this far. I never thought you'd sink this low," Nora said, her eyes never leaving his. 3 weeks later, they were in the courtroom. Patricia was beside Nora, simply dressed but as strong as steel. Daniel had hired Brandon Ellis, known for his aggressive tactics. The courtroom was not crowded, but the atmosphere was heavy. For Nora, this was not just a divorce, it was the reckoning of years. "Your Honor," said Brandon, "my client Daniel Hansen has been deceived by his wife. The children were illegally taken abroad, and his professional reputation has been unfairly damaged. Mrs. Hansen's emotional instability is at the heart of this situation." Patricia remained unfazed. She presented the files, one by one. Passport and permission message for international travel. Documents showing the children's school assignments were tracked. A voice recording from Daniel at Lake Como, laughter with Bianca confirming their surprise birthday. The judge's eyes shifted between the documents. When he looked over his glasses, even Daniel's expression changed. Brandon's tone became tense. As the trial continued, Daniel's efforts grew more desperate. Irregular money transfers in financial documents were revealed. Nora quietly presented the files, showing small withdrawals from joint accounts over the years, amounts transferred to separate accounts. "Your Honor," Patricia said, "Mrs. Hansen has taken on the children's care, managed the household, and even supported her husband's business meetings over the years. While her husband grew, she stepped back. Now, she only seeks what's rightfully hers." At one point, Daniel exploded. "That woman, she was never good enough. She couldn't keep up with my vision." At that moment, Nora stood up. It was the first time she spoke. "True," she said. "I couldn't keep up with your vision. Because that vision wasn't even yours. I couldn't just be a decoration in a career where you stole others' ideas and put your own name on them." The room fell silent. The judge said he would make his decision in 3 weeks, but everyone who left the room already had a sense of the outcome. That evening, the children had fallen asleep early. In the kitchen, Nora made tea alone for the first time in years. Leon appeared at the door, holding a small box. "It was a big day," he said. Nora smiled softly. "And I'm still standing." When she opened the box, inside was a small notebook, leather-bound, with Nora Steinberg written on the cover. "This is for your new program," Leon said, "because the next page is yours." Nora lowered her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's been a long time since I've claimed my name." Leon smiled. "But you've come back now." 6 months had passed. That final day in court, Nora had left the courtroom not only with a divorce decree, but with her freedom in her hands. The judge had granted her custody of the children. The family home was now in her name. The joint accounts had been equally divided. But the most important part was the valuation of Daniel's company, based on all the documents related to it, which granted Nora half ownership, thanks to the years of behind-the-scenes effort she had put in. As for Daniel, his downfall was quiet but certain. His relationship with Bianca had already been overshadowed by rumors spreading on social media and whispers within the industry about stolen projects. Bianca had disappeared within months, and Daniel was left alone, stripped of his prestige. But this story wasn't about Daniel. This was Nora's story. That morning, Nora sat at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, with an email open on her computer screen, acceptance letter from Hudson University's education program. For the first time in a long while, she felt as if she had reached a goal. Lucas came running into the kitchen. "Mom, I saw the same class from the brochure in my dream last night. The students were clapping for you." Emma followed behind, in her bathrobe. "Will you let us into your classroom when you become a teacher?" "No," Nora said with a smile. "But we'll do homework together at night. And maybe one day, I'll work at your school too." That evening, Leon arrived with flowers in his hands. His visits no longer brought excitement, but peace. Perhaps there was a romantic connection between them, but neither of them tried to label it. This relationship wasn't something to be rushed into defining. Leon didn't present himself next to Nora. He walked alongside her, on equal terms. "Nora Steinberg," he said, sitting next to her on the wooden chair on the porch. "New teacher, mother of two, a woman opening the second act of her life. Tired but hopeful," Nora said, "and she's not planning on leaving the stage anytime soon." On the table was the schedule from Hudson University. Next to it, her planner, pages marked with colorful pens. "I'll graduate in 2 years," she said. "Then maybe I'll work in a rural area, with children from low-income families. I can be their light," Leon nodded. "You've already been light for years, it just reflected off the wrong walls." As the night went on, their voices mixed with the silence of the porch. The children were asleep inside. Nora looked up at the stars in the sky. Perhaps those stars were the same, but the woman watching them had changed. Years ago, she had changed her name for a man. Now she had taken that name back and was building a life with it. She had once lived in the shadow of a man. Now she was growing in her own sunlight. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. With each new story, we grow stronger together, starting anew. Share your thoughts with us, because every voice can light the way for someone else's journey.